Good morning. It's very early in the morning here in South Carolina and the USA. It's like, I think it's almost 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay, I'm going to be reading from Luke 20:19 to 26 in the ESV. The scribes and the chief priests sought to lay hands on him at that very hour, for they perceived that he had told this parable against them. But they feared the people, so they watched him and sent spies who pretended to be sincere, that they might catch him in something he said, so as to deliver him up to the authority and jurisdiction of the governor. So they asked him, "Teacher, we know that you speak and teach rightly, and show no partiality, but truly teach the way of God. Is it lawful for us to give tribute to Caesar or not?" But he perceived their craftiness, and said to them, "Show me a denarius. Whose likeness and inscription does it have?" They said, "Caesar's." He said to them, "Then render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." And they were not able in the presence of the people to catch him in what he said, but marveling at his answer, they became silent. Okay, I'm not going to go into this whole thing. The he in this is Jesus, uh, and he's talking. Oh, he's been talking quite a bit. So I'm going through the book of Luke, and and he's talking some to just his disciples and some to everybody. And so the scribes and the chief priests, they took offense at a parable that he gave, which I think was intended against them. He was getting a message across, and he taught a lot in parables, when he lived on the earth. Anyway, so they were offended at what he said, and so they wanted to take him out. They wanted to get back at him, and so they sent spies, and these spies pretended to be sincere because they wanted to catch him in something he said. Okay. There are spies that exist today. I don't know if you've ever noticed on social media, or even on some websites, they will have a place for people to report other people. They will encourage people to report other people, just if they're offended by what somebody says, they don't like it, or they, in today's world, people are easily offended by a lot of things that they shouldn't be offended by. And I'm not going to go into what all this are, and there are the legitimate things that should offend us. I mean, that should concern us, but it's gotten ridiculous, in a lot of ways. And that's up to you to decide, what you feel is reasonable or not reasonable. That's just my opinion on it, okay? I'm again not picking sides or anything like that, because honestly, I don't think there are sides other than God and the world, and the flesh and the spirit. Those are the true sides. Yes, So anyway, what is happening a lot is government-wise, they're going against anybody who is going against the government and their official story. Anybody who says anything contrary to what is considered the official narrative may be targeted. Anybody who says anything exposing the lies of the government may be targeted. Um, there's all different reasons why someone may have spies, sent against them. But we do live in a time when we're being spied on all the time. If you have a smartphone or a computer or a television, any kind of electronic internet kind of device, you're being spied on all the time. All you have to do, if you have a smartphone, all you have to do is talk about something, and the next thing you know, you're getting ads on that. Or you could be having a conversation with your spouse or with anybody, and then all of a sudden you put in a couple of letters in a search and it brings up exactly what you were talking about. So they're listening, so you need to be careful what you say, so I mean, if you don't want to be spied on, you'd have to get rid of all electronic devices, all internet, related electronic devices, or anything related to television, because they can spy. Uh, they can spy. They can see you. They can hear you. They know your conversations. And they're spying on you on the internet too. Whatever you're putting on the internet, don't ever think that what you're putting out there is private. Even if text messages, emails, none of it's private. They give the guys that it is private, but none of it's private. We live in a world, in a society where nothing's private. Our whole lives are basically out there, for everybody to see. So anyway, we do have spies, and people are being encouraged to report other people if they don't like something that they say. But one of the tricks that they use is to friend you. They want to friend you. I have people trying to friend me on Facebook all the time. I don't know them, or they're not related to somebody I know, or they're not a best friend of my family members or something. I don't friend them. Uh, they, I mean, most of my stuff is public. So they're everything is already out there. So they're not gaining really anything by friending me. Um, uh, so anyway, there are spies everywhere. If you're a person who writes on the internet like I do, I've been writing on the internet for almost 20 years now, sharing the gospel, sharing my devotions, uh, and if you're somebody who is sharing the gospel, the truth of the gospel, the whole gospel, not this diluted half-truth gospel that's permeating the church in America today, if you are somebody who's refuting the lies and you're calling out the lies, if you're exposing false teachings and false teachers, especially anything that is coming against well, it's really the one world order. And I don't know if you believe in that or not, but read the book of Revelation. That's where it's headed. And so, they're watching. They're watching all of us, and they're looking for those who are going to be people who they can conform to their ways, and people they can't conform to their ways. And this isn't just on a government level. This is happening, and this has been happening in the church for a long time. If you aren't somebody that they can mold according to their purposes, or if you aren't somebody that will just, you know, um, agree with everything they're doing and saying, you know, uh, they're being taught in their training. My husband and I went through some of that training, so we know the kinds of things they're being taught. They're being taught to get rid of people like me. One pastor told me people like you with strong convictions. He was trained in his training session to look out for people like me, or to watch out, or something along that line, to be careful about. And then he invited me to go someplace else where I'd be a better fit. I've heard that one more than once. Anyway, yes, if you're somebody who's really serious about the scriptures, serious about the Lord, serious the way that Jesus was serious, who is saying things that people need to hear, but they don't want to hear, you're going to be targeted. And so some of the people who may try to friend you, some of the people who may respond to you, may try to trick you, and I've had this before. I call it baiting. I even told one person, I said, don't try to bait me. And he even admitted that he was trying to bait me, which they don't usually do that, but over time you learn to know the lingo and the way they do things, and I do try to give most people the benefit of the doubt but I'm very cautious about how I respond to them and what I say to them, and I just kind of wait to see where they're going with it, and so anyway, just be aware that if you're on the internet, that you can't trust everybody. You can't trust everybody who is a pastor. You can't trust everybody who says they're a Christian, that they are really a Christian. You can't trust so many people. You can't trust your politicians. You can't trust the news media. There's just so much lies and deception, which, again, read the book of Revelation. This is where we're headed, and what, and so I think it's Matthew 24 or 25 that tells us too, what we can expect. And I think in First Peter, maybe it's First Peter 2, I don't know, in Titus, that we get a good picture of what we can expect in these final days, before the return of Christ. There's going to be a lot of people out there who are crafty and deceitful and who are going to try to trip us up with our words. And so we need to be very smart, biblically. We need to be very discerning people, and we need to pray for discernment, and we need to pray that we would not just, respond quickly, or emotionally, but that we would take our time to respond on. It's a lot easier to do that in writing when you're in person with somebody, especially if you're with somebody, that you're close with, it's a little different. But we can be wise, and we can take from this example of Jesus to to consider that what people are saying to us may not be on the up and up. They may not be as sincere or as honest as maybe they pretend to be. So we just have to be careful. And I know that's crazy, but it's just the reality of, the world we live in today, and the condition of the church too, So just be wise, be discerning, pray, ask God for wisdom. Don't be quick to respond, and it's pray, that you'll respond the right way, and just know that hardly anybody can be trusted these days. Just trust in God. Okay. All right. That's it.